Hello, buddy. All right, let's see now. Yeah, just waiting to see if Tim shows up. Did send him a link earlier. Hopefully, he'll join us tonight. Um, but if not, I can, of course, as usual, run the show myself as well. But, um, yeah, give him a few minutes here. Hopefully, everybody's having a good week this week. We're just, as I said, just waiting around to see if um, Tim shows. Giving people time to come in, as they wish. Um, are you going to you going maybe send them a you going to join me? You going to join me tonight? You going to join me tonight? Oh, there you are. I was wondering if you're on your way. I just sent you a message.
I know.
uh, how are you doing tonight, Tim?
I'm doing okay.
That's good. Well, before we get started, did you want to do an intro? Maybe share any links?
Oh, we're live.
Yeah.
Um, just the same stuff I've been saying. Melvin 1 and 2 special editions are on Walmart, Amazon, and Barnes and Noble websites.
All right. So with that, and of course, you can at any point, if you wish to share your links to where people can reach you, that will. I hope that will help. With
Yep.
that, so tonight, we've got one article we're going to go over, but I have a feeling it's going to give us quite a bit of discussion. Something that's kind of up your alley a little bit, or something you've been talking a lot about lately. Um, in the realm of free speech and entertainment and all that, um, at least partially. Um, that article is gonna be from Bounding into Comics. Disney and other studios with streaming platforms work with Congress to crack down on piracy, arousing free speech concerns and ignoring the real problem. So we'll go over that article.
Well, I mean, isn't piracy? What's that got to do with free speech? That's
I guess
first
we'll
off.
find out because I guess we'll find out because I just all I did was read off the headline there. So when we go over it, I guess we'll both see what it has to do with free speech.
Okay.
Um, but also, of course, we'll have the wrestling wrap up a little later, and this day in each history. So without any further ado, then why don't we go ahead and get right into the article then? So it is. Oh, all right. So there's Bounty in the comics. All right. All right. So Disney and other studios and streaming platforms work with Congress to crack down on piracy, arousing free speech concerns and ignoring the real problem. Our article by J.B. Augustine, published on April 27th, which of course was let's see, today's the 30th. So I believe that was let's see, 27. So 29, 20. So that was Saturday. And there you got Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force right there, who is voiced by Dave Willis. So, all right. So, this might come as a shock, but Hollywood doesn't like it when you watch their stuff without permission. Since the practice is illegal, the law is on their side, and they have a valid grievance. However, while all appears airtight, given that fact of life, there are broader implications. Disney primarily and Disney primarily and every conglomerate with a streaming service are towing the line of those implications that involve free speech by dragging Congress into the fray. The two institutions are working together to draft another bill to combat piracy. The Motion Picture Association, in tandem with members of Congress, wants to pass, quote, judicial site blocking legislation, unquote, to stem the tide of illegal streaming that's seen a sharp increase in the last year. Not so coincidentally, streaming subscriptions have fallen in the same period. Piracy has a host of consequences the MPA is worried about. Um, quote, in the US alone, it, in brackets, piracy, steals hundreds of thousands of jobs from workers and tens of billions of dollars from our economy, including more than 1 billion in theatrical ticket sales, unquote, said organization chairman and CEO Charles Rivkin at CinemaCon via Quartz.
Point of order here.
All right.
Um, or whatever. Uh, um, what were they? Why weren't they concerned about this when they were just going into the movie theaters with cameras, filming it, and then selling the tapes?
I don't know, man. I don't. I really can't answer that because I don't know that. For me, I don't look at it as piracy, anyways. I look at it almost like having another TV available. That's the way I look at it. So,
No. Well, I mean,
um,
I don't know. Some people like to actually buy it from the stores, and I mean, especially if it's rare. If you could go and get a bootleg copy of a really rare item. I
mhm,
mean, in music, bootlegs are like almost like a collectible.
mhm,
Like I bought it from Portland. It was a bootleg VHS of the Misfits live in Florida, and it had a little bit of like people meeting the band and asking them questions right after the show.
yeah. Well, if I had to ponder a guess, and I'm sure Elk would probably say the same thing. What I'm about to say here. If I had to ponder a guess, though, the reason that Hollywood is more up in arms now than maybe they had been in the past is because since now they have their own streaming services, they're making big money off of their own streaming services. And their claim is that if people don't buy it from their streaming service, if they, let's say, go to quote unquote piracy sites to watch the content, then they're losing that big money, you know. So that's probably, it all comes back to money. It's like they're losing money, but I'm sure there's probably some more to it here that JB may be trying to allude to here with the whole idea of how it may connect to free speech. I think as we read the article, we'll find out his reasoning. You know what I mean? You get what I mean there, Tim?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
All right. All right. So let's continue on with the article here, and then of course always feel
Let,
free to bring up your points of
let's
order.
let's recap. Just so I really get it. You were the point was. I'm sorry, you were saying.
Oh, I thought you were about to say something. That's why I
No, no,
stopped you.
I was like, okay, I was just kind of I should go over it one more time to see if I can pick up anything. You were saying,
Okay. You want me to continue, or you want me to actually go back and reread what I already read?
nah, go ahead. Never mind.
All right. Okay, so Rivkin's stated goal is to allow quote, film, television, music, and book publishers to request in court that internet providers block websites that share illegal or stolen content. Says court, sounds good, but not everybody is convinced. Hmm. The MPA tried to push legislation in 2012 called the Stop Online Piracy Act, or SOPA, I guess, that failed because it was feared the law would have a negative slippery slope effect on the free speech of internet users. Even Google and Wikipedia were against it, noted courts.
Um,
Quote,
Also, I want to say, do you think that's going to actually stop people from pirating?
no. I
Yeah.
mean, I basic, you know, like I know that for a fact. I mean, I've actually talked to some people who basically have pretty much said that it's not. I mean, if that would have really stopped people from pirating, then I mean, what is it? A fine? I mean, you know, are they gonna really sit there and try to like put a whole bunch of people in jail just for watching stuff on online? I mean, come on, that's kind of. But anyways, continuing on with the article. Quote: with today's announcement. Oh, go ahead. Were you about to say something, Tim? Or
No, I wasn't actually. I was
oh,
listening.
okay, okay. Quote: with today's announcement, the MPA has made its intentions crystal clear. It wants to give itself and its members the power to force any internet infrastructure provider, up to and including the broadband providers that service your home, to cut off access to websites on their say so alone. Hmm. Rebutted senior policy counsel at Public Knowledge, Meredith Rose, in a statement. So basically, their answer to try to stop piracy is just to cut people's internet off altogether.
How are they supposed to do that?
Huh?
It's not. They themselves are not paying for the service.
And I think that's one of the key issues that people who are saying about free speech, maybe in part, so, quote, we oppose any attempt to ram through censorious legislation developed entirely in secret without the public hearing the harsh consequences of this previously failed proposal. This needs to happen out in the open so that the public can see all the ways in which this proposal is fundamentally and irredeemably flawed, unquote, her statement said. So I guess this is a continuation of the previous um, there's the
Scroll down a little bit. I saw something. You haven't read it yet, but protecting free speech to some people comes with false assumptions. We have to let piracy run wild and unabated.
all right. And was there a particular reason you wanted to read that or
I th- I think it's something to discuss there. I don't think anybody who I don't think anybody who's pro free speech said that piracy had to go unabated, but to punish people by taking away their streaming service or cut off their internet, you know, for what? For what? Are we talking about actually pirating something or viewing pirated material?
hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I think what they're trying to do is probably going both for both. Obviously, um,
Remember when Metallica went after Napster? Did that do them any good?
I don't think so. I think
No.
people still pirated it anyways, right?
Well, no, it became a legit service and it didn't do as well. But they're these rich a holes who want to punish people and make more money. I mean,
Mhm.
they didn't look very good by going after Napster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, but I think they do make a good point. Let's see. Protecting free speech to some people comes with the false assumption you have to well, first, I don't think anybody is saying that they should let piracy unabated, but at the same time, not everybody may see it as pirating either. Depending upon, of course, what you're watching and stuff like that. But you know, um, but while the practice might be on the rise and costs show business reported tens of billions, cracking down on it doesn't address the root problem. Okay, so this is probably where we're gonna get more of the meat of what JB is trying to argue here. The piracy in question on the rise is of streaming content, and this trend correlates with the rise in prices of streaming subscriptions. As Professor Michael D. Smith of Carnegie Mellon University put it to Quartz, quote, it's hard to get people to pay for something that they know they can get for free. Mm-hmm. Then there's the eminent domain aspect to consider, where no personal ownership of the content exists. You don't keep what isn't yours, and the studio it all belongs to can yeet anything off their platform at their leisure. And I think and in a way, I think with that last, you don't keep what isn't yours, and the studio it all belongs to can yeet it off their platform at their leisure, which I think we recently saw, which is one of the issues we saw when the Sony and Crunchyroll merger finalized, and people were having problems, getting their getting the stuff they had actually bought to to continue viewing. They had they came to find out they actually had to, because it was on the new platform or on another platform, they actually now had to rebuy stuff they'd already bought, already had slated to watch. Sounds like you're typing something. Are you? Is there something?
I just don't agree with Elk's hot take there. He says that copyright protection should only last 10 years, and I'm like, no, leave it the way it is. A lifetime plus 50 years. I shouldn't have to worry every 10 years about my material. I mean, like in the U.S., your work is actually automatically copywritten upon creation. Anything after 1979, and I just, the idea that he's not a comic book creator, he's not a creator. I don't know if he's a creator of anything, and he's suggesting 10 years. I'm like, dude, you don't got any skin in the game, so yeah, of course you would say 10 years.
Well, let me just kind of get caught up, because I didn't even know he was here until I heard you type, and then So I go. So according to Elk here,
I know. You guys can't be bothered with the dog, so I have to be bothered with the dog. Hello, Lexus.
All right, I'd go much further than, and these bill critics.
Do you want to get on here? Come on.
I'd advocate copyright. Okay, 10 years. That's what you were just saying, and then you responded very strongly that the lifetime of 50 years.
That's the current law. Is that it's lifetime plus 50 years after you. I think you die after you die or something.
Leave it the way it is. Why should drug patents only last 20 years or less, yet a Star Wars movie be protected for?
Well, I mean, he's talking about big IPs, but I'm talking about mine. I don't want to have to worry every 10 years about my characters.
Yeah. Seeing is okay, and then you this is all just what you were already telling me before I decided.
Yeah, and then he brings up Japan, but we're not Japan, so
yeah. Japan has less copyright protection and a more thriving, game cartoon. Yeah, it's kind of funny you say that because I think JB is about to. I think where JB is going in this article here may very well be, you may have just touched upon a very interesting connection there, Elk. Why should a government using my taxes be used to censor me?
Well, I mean, one has nothing to do with the other. Copyright protection, and then they're not using copyright protection to censor people. They're using the fact that there's piracy. Because I
Okay.
mean, when you change the copyright laws, you're not just hurting big companies. Stop it, Lexus. You're also hurting small time creators if you by changing that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's continue with the article and see where JB goes from here. If people are denied, say, Westworld or Space Ghost Coast to Coast or physical media, and they want it bad enough, they are going to find ways to watch them, no matter how many firewalls and barricades are in the way, which is something you alluded to earlier. But those are examples of old shows. You probably say, what about new stuff? Assuming that's a serious question. We know how that's working out for them, especially Disney. Never has there been more of a glut in the offerings of IPs they own, such as Star Wars and Marvel. Moreover, never have there been greater complaints and disillusionment from fans over the quality and forced messaging layered deliberately within the programming. Turning their backs, fans are shutting it off and canceling their Disney Plus bundles. Hollywood can't take them for granted anymore and may be faced with a more serious crisis soon, figuring out how to win the viewers back, assuming they care. See, I think that's really, one of the other issues with the piracy issue too, right? Is that like for some people may prefer to watch older content that isn't as readily available. You know, you know, you know, is somebody going to have to pay like $9.99 a month or whatever to, just to watch, something from like let's say the 50s or 60s when if they can find it for free elsewhere, you know, if that's what they want, you know. I mean, I can understand them a little bit with the newer stuff if people are pirating newer stuff, because that's the stuff that they're currently making money on. But like older stuff, for example, that's not something that they're really making money on. And if they're starting to, complain about that, then yeah, it's more like kind of what you were saying with the whole Metallica Napster thing, right? It just sounds like a bunch of greedy, rich bleeps just wanting to try to.
Again, I really hate that hot take that Elk is saying about copyright protection about 10 years. Fuck that. I'm sorry, it just ticks me off. It should be
Mhm.
lifetime plus 50 years. Why mess with it? Because that doesn't just hurt big corporations; it hurts small creators too. That's a dumb idea, and I'll die on that hill. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fine. Grant a copyright protection for 10 years or 1 million in revenue. But why does the government use taxpayer resources to allow all corporations like Disney, 1 out of 2 there, and then 2 out of 2, um, that never has even created anything, make billions off it um, for called up executives? I think in Alex's case, he's arguing a slightly different thing. I think he's more going after the corporations and their role in it. You know,
Yeah, I mean, by that that doesn't his idea doesn't just affect corporations; it also affects small time creators. What my issue is the length of copyright protection.
mhm,
You know, he's not thinking about the small time creators who create something and have to worry every 10 years. If we went with that idea, that's why I don't like that idea, and I
yeah,
guarantee you nobody else would either.
yeah. Well, maybe those were some of the issues that were brought up. In that when we were talking about that law from 2012 that they mentioned earlier. Maybe that's that. Maybe those were the issues also brought up then. You know, um,
What does he mean by carve out small time creators? I have no idea what that even means.
was that what Elk is saying?
Yeah.
Maybe what he's suggesting is maybe you should break the copyright laws down in different in other words, maybe have one set of albeit that wouldn't be very practical either. Have one set of copyright rules, let's say for small time creators, and have a separate one for big creators or big corporations. Um, Albeit I don't see that being practical, and I think there would be people saying that, well, no, that's not fair either. You know, um, because the law is supposed to treat everybody equally. You know, um, Disney has spent millions buying off U.S. Congress to increase copyright length. Hmm. Yeah. If not, and all signs say content purveyors don't. If not, and all signs say that content purveyors don't, then they literally have cooked their golden goose. Hmm. So I think JB's argument is that they're trying to punish people for pirating material, but not really addressing the problem, and that getting people to actually want to watch their material. Okay. um
Wait. What does he mean by lose copyright? Exactly. Small time.
exactly, small creators could have protection for the first 10 million in revenue, then lose copyright. Yeah, I don't really see anybody. Granted, I'm not a creator myself, but I don't well, aside from being a YouTube content creator, but I don't see anybody going for that idea either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what does he mean? Like you would first 10 million and then you would lose your copyright? I don't. I thought that's even worse. If it's look, the system's not broke for the rest of us, so don't fix it.
Mhm. How can anyone justify Disney stealing German fairy tales, stealing Jack Kirby creations and Muppets, and make billions off them?
Well, I mean,
Well,
they bought Marvel.
yeah, I don't know if you can really say they actually stole any. In that regard, I don't think you can really say they stole anyway. They bought the properties to do with as they wish, and unfortunately, for a lot of fans are getting turned off by that because they're deciding that they're going to use the IP, use the name recognition of the IPs to push whatever agendas or what have you they want. You know, and that you know
I don't think that the system's broken. I mean, I like actually not having to worry about my copyright protected characters, my intellectual property. Oh well, copyright should only apply to creators. I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's another basic aspect there too, is that but I think I kind of understand where JB's going with his argument here. It's the idea of it's kind of like the idea of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as it were. You know, basically what they're saying is that if you're caught pirating, they want to just cut off your internet all wholesale.
It doesn't seem very feasible.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but it almost seems very draconian and tyrannical.
Yeah, well, I mean, how are they supposed to enforce it? That's the whole point of piracy is they do it without anybody knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we could shoot Elk a link. Maybe we could. It'd be easier to discuss his point of view in person.
Oh yeah, that might be a good idea. Let me just because this is, as I said, the only article I was going to go over tonight because I figured it would spark some I figured it was going to spark some discussion here. All right, Elk, I'm going to go ahead and send you I'm going to go ahead and send you tonight's link if you want to
I mean, that the argument almost sounds like the same as when the left says that people don't have a right to property.
mhm, yeah. And almost a communist take on that. So, anyways, all right, Elk. I think I just sent you the link. So if you want to pop in and join in on the discussion here, I just sent you the link via your. Um, no, I don't want to put it in the chat because I don't want to risk anybody. Um, there are certain individuals I'd rather not have in the chat. That's why I send it to you via email. You know, if you've been around long enough, you know there are certain individuals who would be very disruptive if they got in here. So, but I did send it to your email, so you should be able to. Um, should have it and be able to come in here in a few minutes here. All right.
I strongly disagree with the thing that it's oppressive. It's the copyright for small creators is also accessible, and the fact that it protects our IPs from being stolen.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that, Mike. Yeah, the link was in there. I didn't know it just said StreamYard. I thought I was expecting a link.
So I mean, so maybe for Disney, but for people like me, it protect. Like I said, I've already had to confront somebody. Was it like a year or so ago, with taking my exact image from my book, and kind of using it.
Yeah.
And they, of course, apologized and took it down. But people, like I said, the copyrights protect small time creators, and if you change it to 10 years, then every 10 years we have to worry about
sure. That's where I disagree with you. Is I think if you go into the history of copyright, it's not a history of protecting small time creators whatsoever. It's the exact opposite. And it literally is an evil conspiracy of Disney and the US Congress that has forced copyright extension after copyright extension after copyright extension act
That's different.
down the throats of Americans, and not only Americans, but through the World Trade Organization. One of the most effective lobbying efforts ever has been the Motion Picture Association, getting the U.S. Congress to lobby and U.S. administration after administration to lobby the World Trade Organization to force countries like Canada to adhere to U.S. copyright regulations, basically word for word, as they get like shoved down our throats through the World Trade Organization.
Well, here's what, if I may.
All on behalf, and again, it's not on behalf of small creators, it's on behalf of giant Hollywood movie studios, of which America, it is one of America's primary exports.
Okay.
And it's and again, it's this oppressive system countrywide that just a few large economies like Japan, it's only because Japan has such a large economy on its own that it's been able to negotiate carve-outs for itself from American copyright law, which Congress tried to apply in Japan too.
Elk, let Tim have a chance to respond to what you said here. Okay.
Of course, I do know that it does protect small-time creators, because upon creation, my characters are already copywritten, and it's the length is a lifetime plus 50 years. Anything created after 1979. So yes.
Out of curiosity, like, who benefits though? I mean, there's a utilitarian argument where you just step back and you go, who's really benefiting out of this? Is it really out of someone who's, written a novel and it gets published in the 1970s and has 3 years worth of sales, and then it drops out of print, and or does it help? And it is mainly designed to help movie studios, again, like Disney, which steals from their creators right, left, and center. I mean, screenwriter after screenwriter has to go up against Disney lawyers suing them for saying that Disney has stolen their property and their ideas.
Well, I mean, did they work for Disney?
No, that's the problem. It's either not working for Disney or working for Disney. Disney's notorious.
Yeah, I think one of the things Elk is talking about is like one of the things that recently happened with Chris Wozniak, who I guess had submitted, I guess he had submitted a Batman story or something like that.
Yeah.
And he decided to publish it himself, but then because Warner Brothers has the DC licenses, they basically nixed it, and he basically lost in court over it.
Well, I mean, he submitted to DC, and the DC said no, and then they decided, well, you know what, we're going to use it. We're going to use a variation of it anyway. Yeah. Whoops! Don't submit things to Disney then.
That's that's not a real answer. That's why would the U.S. government be Why would the U.S. government be supporting Disney in a situation like that? It doesn't have to. There are better options. And if you really are worried about small creators, copyright law and every other kind of law and every other tax law and every capital gains law applies differently to different people and differently to different size transactions. So it would be very easy to say, find small creators like authors or comic book authors and such for the first $10 million in revenue generated off your creation, which is 99% of book authors and 99% of comic book authors and 99% of even filmmakers and of other creators. Fine, give them copyright protection on either 10 years or $10 million in revenue off your creation.
I'd rather keep it the way it is, lifetime plus 50 years.
But is that because you're a creator, or is that because...
Exactly.
That's not a legitimate position. If I think I should be the only one to be able to broadcast on the internet because I've got an internet camera, and if no one else could broadcast...
Can't possibly be the same, though.
On YouTube.
Couldn't possibly be the same because anybody can do it.
Why would American taxpayers support the Disney Corporation just so you can sell your comic book? Like, that's not just saying it's in your own interest does not make it a legitimate position. It's a governmental interest. It's supposed to be a societal interest that the government.
I don't want anybody to steal my characters. That's my interest.
Fine, then no one can steal your. have you made $10 million in revenue yet from your
No, but if I make 20 million, I don't want to lose any copyright over it.
Well, I don't really want the Disney Corporation dictating what I can show to my kids, what I can view myself, what I can write. I can't, God help me, if I write about a mouse that pilots a steamboat, I can't do that because a multi-billion-dollar corporation in a foreign country gets to dictate to me what I see on my television set, what I see in my movie theater, what I see in my books. I mean, it's ludicrous.
I should have protection on my characters without having to worry of thieves stealing my IPs.
I don't think they're thieves. I don't think. Why would someone, when a U.S. company goes out and develops a new cancer drug, and they do this all the time, and the patent protection used to be 25 years, then I think it got dropped to 20 years. In Canada, it used to be 10 years, and then they signed the free trade agreement, and the Americans made them raise it to 20 years. So why should the protection on a company that goes out and develops something as useful as a cancer drug only last 20 years? And the government regulates it in such a way that they say, no, the greater societal interest is that your protection on that formula is only for 20 years. After 20 years, we allow off-market, we offer generic manufacturers of the drug. They're then entitled to manufacture that drug and sell it for a profit. You can continue to sell the drug for a profit. You just have to do it in a competitive atmosphere. It's the free market system. It's capitalism. You could still sell your comic book. You would just not have an exclusive license to censor and deny to anyone that you chose to show your character. And why would a society decide a cancer drug is only worth 20 and I think now it's down?
Well, no, the issue for me would be somebody saying, well, I'm going to write my own Melvin book and make money off it. And why would I want that?
Why would you want what? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, well, no, but without a copyright protection, somebody can just easily take my character, write a book about that character, my character, and then make money off it.
And what do you lose out of that?
Well, money and the fact that it's my character. I created it. I went through all the painstaking hard work to put it out there.
If I have a piece of paper and I have a typewriter, why can't I write down a Melvin? What harm occurs to you for me writing a Melvin story? What if I write a novella and I only sell it in Canada?
No.
Well, I don't think Melvin in of itself is the problem. It's if you did Tim Olson's Melvin would be the issue. The Melvin character he could.
Sure. That's the thing that the Japanese market shows is that the copyright protections that are active in America and around the world through the WTO because of oppressive American bullying, basically, of markets. In Japan, they have a looser copyright so that fan fiction in most cases is allowed. And that has not led to the Japanese comic market or manga market receding. It's by far a more dynamic and larger and more creative and more productive market and industry than it is in America. So why wouldn't that translate to America? If just Disney won't let us try it, Disney won't let us put out movies. We barely have carve-outs for satire and for humor and for educational purposes. But there's no proof whatsoever. It has never been proven that the Japanese system is less viable for industry. The Japanese manga industry in a country that has less than a third of the population, they have several times over more comic book sales. And in a country where only one country in the world, majority speaks Japanese, and they have a mammoth, oversized computer game industry and movie industry on a per capita basis, much larger than the United States gaming industry. And with their movie industry, again, considering only one country in the world, and that's a country the fraction of the size of one English-speaking country, their movie industry is probably per gross domestic per gross per capita is probably larger than America. So there's no proof that companies would make less money by loosening copyright restrictions. Japan actually proves the opposite. They're an example where they would make more money if they had less restrictive copyright constrictions on people who I feel no moral obligation to be constrained, because Disney rewrote a bunch of German fairy tales from my cultural heritage, and they stole them from the 1890s because
I guarantee you they're not copywritten. So
because they rewrote them, why is it now I can't make a movie, or Disney can sue me and drag me into court into oblivion if I make a movie about Cinderella?
You can actually, because that Ben Shapiro guy made a Snow White movie.
He hasn't made it yet, and let's see how fast and see how he ends up in court doing so. But Disney's famous, again, just for obliterating people by dragging them into court and to running out the clock in the American legal system.
Well, yeah, Disney's not the only company that's done that. We've talked at length about how DC did that to Fawcett with Captain Marvel too.
Yeah. I mean, the American legal system in itself is often a tool of oppression that rewards the wealthy and rewards millionaires and billionaires rights that, in all practical effect, it takes away from regular citizens. Even though supposedly the law is written neutrally, like, oh, I can write my comic and it'll have the same protections as Disney. Well, no,
it does.
No, it doesn't. Because if Disney doesn't like your Melbourne product, they can drag you into court and they can rack up a couple of $100,000 in legal fees, and you'll have to walk away after the first 3 months. Just like who's the guy, yeah boy Zach or whatever. There is such a thing as passing a law, and there's an entirely different thing in effectively enforcing it.
Oh, the catorcious interference. Yeah, because Mark Wade didn't want to go to Texas. He wanted it in California, so he dragged his feet.
So all they got to do was to fight over jurisdiction until Yaboy ran out of money, and then he folded like a tent. I mean, and he wasn't even fighting a corporation there. He was just fighting Mark Wade and a very expensive, very wealthy, multi-millionaire lawyer.
Well, he made more money crowdfunding anyway.
Yeah, I think that's getting quite a way astray from the topic. But the idea is that copyright law is, for one thing, it's not fair. It is oppressive. You've just never thought of it that way before. But I think
it's not, because it protects my character from being stolen.
Saying something isn't oppressive because I benefit from it is not an actual argument. Saying I should be able to go rob my neighbor or and not get arrested for it, that actually benefits me. And
that's all I care about is the fact that my characters are protected.
Well, that's not an argument for making government policy.
I'm not a politician.
Yeah, but that's not even a good faith argument.
Okay. Well, what the article that we originally were talking about, right, was how Hollywood studios were trying to get Congress to curb piracy. Okay. Because
I'm saying that's totally a great example. Do you think Timothy Olsen Incorporated can lobby Congress to curb piracy?
No.
And that you can get websites shut off at your request? No.
Well,
but you think that law passed the Motion Picture Association, which has always been a tool of Disney's right from its beginning, and others, but definitely Disney has always been in like flame with the MPA. It's one of the most oppressive, tyrannical, censorious, anti-free speech, anti-creative, anti-profit, anti-growth, anti-free speech, oppressive organizations in the world. It interferes with millions of people exercising their creativity and their freedom. Think of how many good Batman stories we'd have right now if Disney didn't own, or if DC didn't own the copyright to to Batman. We'd
To
have
their own character?
Batmans. They're not their own characters. Disney never created, or Warner Brothers never created DC. And in fact, DC itself never friggin' created its own characters. They usually stole them at low cost from their real creators. So, I mean,
But
it's
that's the thing about working. If you work for Marvel,
incredibly
if you work for people like Marvel and you make a character for them, that upon creation, it's their character now. You get a
Why should it be that way, though? That's not
because you work
that's
for
the way-
them.
That's not
But
because
the reality is, it is that way.
That's because American law has made it that way. That's not how it is.
That's how.
If I were in Japan, I could make my One Punch Man fan fiction, and One Punch Man would still make more money than any Batman creation is. Like the whole American comic industry is going down the toilet right now because of copyright protection, because they've got
bad stories.
I've been covering that quite a bit, and it's not okay. The copyright thing may be a contributing factor, but that's not the main cause of it. And that's even what J.B. Augustine was pointing out here in his article. It's not that may be a contributing factor, but that's not why the Western entertainment scene is sinking. Okay, it's sinking because they're not giving people what they want. They're basically flipping the bird to people, saying we're gonna shove what we want to shove down your throat, and there's nothing you can do about it. And people are going over to Japan.
That entirely makes copyright protection a necessary cause for the destruction of the comic book industry, because only if DC and Marvel did not own 80% of the popular character creations of the last 100 years, if they were not able to legally exclude creative, inventive, entertaining people all across America, sitting in their living rooms, sitting in their studios, sitting in their writing rooms, all the Timothy Olsons all across the country, if they were allowed to write their favorite Batman character and then go out on the internet and put up a sign saying, read my Batman story, there would be instantly Batman material on the market from Timothy Olson that people would like better than the shit that's coming from DC Warner. So it is a necessary cause that this oppressive MPA association, the American Publishers Associations in the past 100 years have all pushed this BS too, of using American civil law and American criminal law to forward this oppressive idea that we all need the permission of Mickey Mouse to write our own Cinderella story. Like, why is it when I rent a stroke off video in Canada, for God's sakes, I get an FBI warning in front of almost every friggin' video, if not every friggin' video? And I'm talking about like 20-minute stroke fests I downloaded from the internet, not some great works of art like Gone with the Wind or something. Why is it in Canada and England and Australia and New Zealand, everywhere we get these FBI warnings? Oh, don't go out and don't clip your own movies, don't edit your own movies, don't do a mock-up, don't do a cartoon version of Gone with the Wind, or the FBI will criminally prosecute you. And this is like in Canada. It's people just don't think about this way. But Timothy Olson, you could be writing Superman stories, you could be writing Batman stories, you could be writing Spider-Man stories, all of which would probably be more attractive to more readers than we're getting right now, than Vita Ayala's version of them. But because of copyright, we can't do it, and I can't read it, and it's not fair. I want to be able to read your Batman story. I don't want to be stuck with Vita.
I do apologize.
Elk, let me ask you a pretty simple question here. Do you think that Tim actually wants to write a Batman or a Superman story?
No.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You can answer in just a second, but I'm guessing yes, because, and I mean not under conditions as they are now, but I mean under the conditions I'm trying to get people to imagine. If you could legally write a Batman story, maybe even one that you could profit off of for 10 years or $10 million worth of revenue, and if Batman's not your favorite character, sure, I'm not saying he is, but I'm thinking that, yeah, you're probably a lover of American comic books who grew up in the last like 80 years. And as such, there are probably some Marvel or DC comic book characters, either from now or in your youth, that you do love and that you would like to write stories. I'm not saying you'd like to go work for Marvel and go work for DC. I mean, if under this alternate reality that I'm trying to put forward, that even existed in the 19th century, for instance, this is all a 20th century creation, this bastardization of copyright. Yeah, that you got to have some American comic book.
Then again, that's the thing. I don't want people writing their own versions of Melvin and profiting off them. That's
but
my
would you?
creation.
That's not the question. Are there American mainstream or non-mainstream comic book characters that you'd like to write for and be able to advertise and sell?
No. People have done it better than I like writing my own stuff, but that's just kind of the whole like my own thing.
Well, I think in general that's what independent comics is all about, right?
Yeah,
not
but
nec-
okay,
not
so what do
necessarily
you like
just
to
taking,
read?
not
Are
just
there not?
necessarily taking somebody else's property to write about, creating your own property.
Well, the idea is it's
to
not
write
really
and
somebody else's
produce
property.
and
In this
profit off of.
circumstances, it wouldn't be someone else's property; it would be public property. So
that's
is there
the thing. I don't want people making. I don't want my character becoming public property. I don't want people writing their own Melvin stories and profiting off them. This is my story. This is my book, and I'm very, very protective of my creations. They're like children, my children. That's why.
Okay,
that's why I don't like
and
your
I know that's a
Ayala,
sentiment
do you
shared
think
by a
Vita
lot of
Ayala should be
creators,
the
too.
only one who's allowed to write Marvel? Then, do you think Vita Ayala?
I really
should
don't
be-
care
Are there
what
not
they write.
other people who write X-Men comics?
I
other
really
than
don't
Vita
care.
Ayala?
I care about my creation. I care about my characters. I care about protecting what is mine.
Well, just saying you only care about mine is not an argument for having.
I don't care if it's
US
not an
government.
argument. I care about protecting what's my characters.
Well, for one thing, you're not protecting it or not because I don't have the power to change the copyright system. But it's also, it's not in general, in abstract terms, it's not a valid reason for deploying the FBI because you have a personal interest in
No, I wouldn't. That's ridiculous. I mean,
we get that in Canada. We get in front of almost every video,
Really?
even dumb ones like corporate videos from Amway and shit. We get a disclaimer on there, or whatever you call it. We get a little text of legalese that says the FBI takes copyright infringement very seriously under such and such and such term of the World Trade Organization, and that any violators will be prosecuted. Like I get an FBI threat in another country over and it's not just like Star Wars movies. It's over stupid shit. It's over like the vilest drivelly porn. Or again, it's like Amway corporate videos. We get FBI warnings threatening to come and prosecute us. It's oppressive. And this only existed in the 20th century. This has only been.
Do you think they actually are going to follow through? I guarantee they're not. I mean, there was an underground market in the 80s for like pirated movies, and there's
apparently in Montreal used to be a hotbed of movie piracy because it was just across the border from the U.S. from New York, where they'd sell them like secondhand stories and swap meets and stuff. And apparently they did actually have like equipment that was like where people on a commercial scale were pirating movies in Montreal.
A big thing about this discussion too, guys, is that you both are coming from it from different angles. Okay,
I do apologize if I got overheated, though.
Oh no!
Well, Tim, I understand where you're coming from. Okay, Tim's a creator. Okay, and he has a right. If he creates a character, in this case Melvin, he has a right to hold on to that copyright for as long as he lives, as long as he wants it. Elk, you're more arguing the whole evils of corporations argument. These are like these are kind of two different arguments here that you guys are arguing.
They are that, but it's also just not the idea that corporations are evil. Is I'm saying, look, 100 years ago, this property right that we now call it a right didn't exist. If you published, like when Vincent van Gogh or someone made an expressionist painting in the 1890s.
Actually, okay, I have to correct you on something there, Elk. Actually, in the Constitution, some of the first words in the U.S. Constitution is that everybody has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and I believe property was in there somewhere too. Okay.
Yeah, but copyright was not considered property. There was even there's a clause in the U.S. Constitution about a patent office. And again, this brings up the anomaly where property rights only extend to cancer drugs for 15 to 20 years, but yet Mickey Mouse gets like 120 years effectively of protection.
Yeah, I think we've discussed this enough for now, because I think to me it just sounds like we're going in circles, and
Yeah.
I don't think at this point, like, Elk, you're not going to change your point of view. Tim, you're not going to change your point of view. I think it's at this point, before things get any more heated or anything like that, any more personal, I think it's just better to just agree to disagree and move on, because we're at the hour mark already.
Yeah.
And we could sit here all night, just continuing going back and forth, and all it's going to do is just get people upset. And I just think we're at a point where this conversation, I think, has run its course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I got heated. I'm sorry. It's a very
I say things, I have to admit, I try not to do it anywhere near as much, but and I don't really anymore. I don't say things deliberately to make people heated, but I do think when you think about things in one way and you've never considered them being another way, and you're doing so for the first time, people naturally retreat into defending what their original position was, when if they did actually listen and sort of flesh out what another position might be,
okay,
and then they considered it.
I hear you, but
Elk, let me stop you right there.
Oh.
I think Tim has heard everything you have to say on the matter,
yes.
and he's still not going to change his mind. Okay,
Yeah.
so
especially if you consider how hard I've worked to get where I am, and the idea of somebody else being able to take what I I've had nothing. I've had nothing before.
And Tim, same goes in regards to Elk. Elk, you're not going to change Elk's mind on his position either. Okay,
I don't think so.
Yeah. So I mean, let's just agree to disagree. I think it's time to get to the wrestling wrap up.
Sure.
And then finish up with this day in each history. I thank you guys for being here. This is a very lively discussion. Lively.
Again, I want to say I feel bad about getting heated.
I feel bad about making you feel like you were being rude or anything. I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as someone who strongly believes something.
Right.
Yeah, I don't at all feel that you were being impertinent or impolite or anything. I thought you were being honest and passionate about something. So
okay.
Yeah, I didn't see it as
Mike do his thing.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to defuse the situation before anything gets more heated. That's what I'm trying to do right now. That's why I'm like, okay, enough, guys, enough. All right. So as I said, let's get to the wrestling wrap up. So, and since I didn't really get to go through a whole lot last night, because we kind of went through, we really had, on the last story, we got into some stuff and all that, get some good discussion there. But as I said, this was a good discussion, and we can agree to disagree for now. But anyway, so let's get to the wrestling wrap up. So this coming weekend, of course, WWE and TNA both have events that they're building up for this week. TNA on Friday, I believe, has a Rebellion pay-per-view, and WWE has on Saturday the Backlash pay-per-view. So, so here's what's on tap for those. As soon as I get first up, let me just find TNA here. Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. All right, let's see. Oh, actually, no. It's just Friday. It's not. Rebellion was the last one. It was actually Under Siege. So for this Friday night's Under Siege from Albany, New York, and the Albany Armory in Albany, New York, already slated for the show includes in the main event. Well, Mustafa Ali will be defending the X Division title. His opponent has not yet been chosen. The TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles will be on the line as Team of Spitfire, Danny Luna, and Jody Threat will be taking on Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich. Hammerstone will be taking on Jake Something in a one-on-one match. In a six-man tag match, you have Matt Hardy and the team of Speedball Mountain of Mike Bailey and Trent Seven taking on the system of TNA World Champion Moose, along with TNA World Tag Team Champions Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers. Cone and Steph DeLander take on Jordan Grace and PCO in a mixed tag match. And then in another tag match to open up the show, Frankie Kazarian and Steve Macklin take on Josh Alexander and Eric Young. So that's what's all going down on Friday night for TNA's Under Siege pay-per-view. And then for Saturday, on Saturday's Backlash pay-per-view from France for WWE. As soon as I get to that one. All right, so the Backlash event from France, which will be coming up on this Saturday, the 4th. I find the cursor here to. Already signed for Backlash includes Cody Rhodes defends the WWE and WWE Universal titles against AJ Styles. Damian Priest defends the World Heavyweight title against Jey Uso. In a tag team match, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens take on Bloodline members of Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. In a match for the women's tag team titles, the Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane of Damage Control take on Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. And in a triple threat match for the women's title, Bayley will be defending against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. So that's all I got for the wrestling wrap-up, as it were, just simply because of the fact we are already past an hour. But with that, we're going to go ahead and finish things off with this day in each history. So today being Tuesday, April 30th, the final. We're a third of the way through the year, guys. We're April 30th, the last day of April. So we're 4 months in already. What do you guys think of 2024 so far?
Weird.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys knew what happened, like in was it February, you would understand.
Is this something you and I have talked about before? Or is this
I
something
think
different?
it's something that everybody knows about, and it kind of made it put everything in a weird start.
Something about.
Oh, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it anymore. I'm talking about Vic King, dude.
Oh, Vic King.
That thing kind of started off this year on a weird.
I actually thought you were talking about another thing that happened more with you. And
what thing?
And a particular individual.
Oh no, that was just stupid. There's a difference between weird and stupid.
Oh, but you're talking about the whole Vic King situation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, today, as I said, is Tuesday, April the 30th. 2024. So let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. And tonight I only have a couple of items. One from comics, one that's comics related, and one that's animated related. So first off, we're going to head back to 1994, 30 years ago today. As on this date back in 1994, back in 1994, in 1994, an animated television film produced by Ruby Spears and Deke Entertainment, based on the aired as part of the ABC Weekend series, The Magic Flute, which is based on the I guess the play or the story. Let's see, and the opera, Wolfgang Mozart's opera, The Magic Flute. In 1994, Ruby Spears and Deke did a animated adaptation of that an animated film for the ABC Weekend special on this date 30 years ago today. So 30 years ago today, the Ruby Spears Deke Entertainment's animated adaptation of Wolfgang Amadeus's Mozart's The Magic Flute premiered on ABC television on ABC's Weekend Special. And also on this date 10 years ago today, back in 2014, on this date back in 2014, the 10th issue of Batman 66 went on sale on newsstands from DC. This was, of course, a comic book that was based on the 1966 Batman television series. It had 3 stories there: The Summer of Freeze, Batman Doesn't Play Nice, and Cleo Bat Ra. So on this date 10 years ago today, the 10th issue of Batman 66 went on sale on newsstands. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. And before we head out, I'm going to give you guys a chance to do an outro. I'll let Alk go first if you want to promote anything, maybe promote any projects you're doing if you have, or promote anything like that.
Yeah, no, not yet. I would like to thank Tim for putting up with me. I quite enjoy actually getting to argue with him.
It was all good. It was all
I
good.
took history and political science in school, so I used to argue with other students like for hours every day. That's just we all did. It was political science, so that's what you did.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it maybe more than I should. But no, I don't have any projects right now. But thank you both, Mike and Timothy, for allowing me to come
And I'll just to remind you too here, I always look forward to having good, hearty conversations as long as they just end up not getting too personal, getting to the point where people are going to leave with usually that's when I'll step. If I feel like the conversations run its course, then I may interject. You notice I pretty much let you two hash it out for the majority of the time. It's just when it got to the point where
it was all good. It was all good.
So I enjoy the conversation too. That's what I would hope to have conversations like this, hearty conversations like this with many people engaging, not just 2 or 3 of us, but 10, 15, 20 people engaging in conversations like this, where people are really having a hearty time and having fun, but also just being, being aware enough to be able to respect other people's opinions too and not let it get too personal. So thank you for that, Elk. And Tim, you want to do your outro?
Melvin, number 1, number 2 special editions available at Walmart, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon.
All right. So with that, I thank everybody back. I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, we'll be getting into May 1st tomorrow. I'll have, of course, Rick on with me, and Tim. Hopefully, I'll be able to get you back Thursday for the Indie Comic Showcase, where we can go over and talk something more positively about about some.
Well, it was I mean, like If it was just Elk and a bunch of creators, I'm pretty sure they'd all have a strong opinion about what he was saying too.
Yeah. So with that, I thank everyone for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.